Here we go, week 5. This is the penultimate of the Sunday recaps. Hey Jules, welcome. I can't believe we're here. We had 4 episodes this week with only 2 people being voted off the show. And I won't lie, there was so much happening that I'm going to try and get to everything that we can get to. And last week I kind of found a groove about not really doing a recap. In fact, I decided next year I'm going to rename this, because not really a recap. All of you pretty much watched the episodes. If you didn't, you can catch up. But what I wanted to do was to talk about some of the things that I saw come up this week in the Survivor community. And Monday we had no tribal, as well as Wednesday. I was rewatching today, and I was just trying to figure out, like, but who went home Wednesday? Who went home? And it was so frantic and chaotic. It actually turned out that nobody went home for 2 days of this week, and it felt just as full as it did before. So, so much going on. There was a picture on the Survivor South Africa page, and I have to read it to you because
got paranoid.
It was a picture of Kilani, and it said,
then made Dino paranoid. Dino went to Tajan about his paranoia, who went to Felix and told him about Felix's paranoia. Meanwhile, back on Kilani's side of camp,
the pictures then says, these guys haven't got a clue that I'm the blind side orchestrator. I've spoken about this before, right? Is that sometimes your perception about what's happening is what's right in front of you. So Kalani must be watching this going, why are they making me out to be like this idiot? Well, I don't know how much... You know that episode where she's sitting and they're talking about goats? And we're going to talk a lot about Hayful. Where they're sitting at tribal council and Nico talks about goats. Now, there's 2 different types of goats. There's the greatest of all time. Don't think anybody in Survivor is talking about that being a goat. Now, I want to put this to you, that if you had an opportunity to win 2 million rand, idea of taking somebody that you can beat to the end with you, or do you double your chances and take the goat, right? So everybody in that episode, Nico's talking about the goat, and does the goat know that they go the goat? And everybody's sitting there going, no, they don't. The jury's sitting there watching Kilani like, no, I don't know if the goat knows that they're the goat. And Tajan is still there, and I'm pretty sure that maybe Kilani thinks that Tajan is the goat. But if Kilani doesn't know that Kilani is the goat, who does Kilani think is the goat? Does she think Marion's the goat? Does she think Shane is the goat? This whole thing with Kilani is so fascinating to me. This idea that it's so difficult to even... I don't know Kilani at all. I've never said... I think I messaged her this week on one of the social medias to say, listen, I'm enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the storyline. And I really felt really hectic about her storyline about losing her mom and her partner. I think it was in 3 months or a month of each other. And one of the things that sort of came to me was this idea whether Kilani kept this secret to herself, or whether 28 days in at the start of the week and 32 days in at the end of the week, whether nobody's really gotten to know her. And that for me, I really, really hope that it is the part that Kehlani has got her information in lockdown. Like, I hope that Kehlani has these cards that when she makes it to the end, she's going to play everything out open hand and be like, guys, you think I'm weak, you think maybe I'm the GOAT, but this is what I've been holding back, and like play this incredible hand at the end. More than I hope, then like people just never really got the opportunity to get to know her. I'll tell you one thing, I was attacked a lot in my season 4 playing a social game but actually not knowing anybody, and I had hoped that it would come up at the end, because I knew everything, not everything, as much as people had shared, you know, about their lives. I knew that that Palesa had an 11-year-old son. At the time he was going to be a prefect. I knew everybody's spouse's name. I knew what job they did. I knew some of their family members. I knew what they did for a living and where they worked and all this stuff. And that happens around the fire at night. And so I'm wondering, well, I mean, if you ask me the time, I'm going to tell you my life story. So perhaps that's like my default. I share too much too quickly with like anybody who will listen. And so for Kehlani to have those cards held back, that's immense strength in my opinion. And knowing that if she shared it, she would almost certainly be voted out, because to have a story to tell at the end that is so immensely emotional like that really can flip a jury who also think that they know the full story, right? So the jury's sitting there with their own perspective, and now that they've left the game, they're also only getting the story, the bits of the story that get played out at tribal council. Somebody this week said to me, oh, but don't the jury get to watch what happened on the beaches? I said, absolutely not. The jury are seeing the episodes play out as we are. So that's the missing pieces. Some of the people who voted against me at the end said, geez, we didn't really know what was happening and maybe we made a mistake. So the jury is only getting the information at tribal council. It's one of the things they talk about, playing the jury, right? You're playing, you start to sell stuff, maybe big moves, or you give a lot of information about, you know, what might have happened when Nico's asking questions. And again, remember that what you're seeing of tribal council, maybe 10, 15 minutes, but that could be anywhere up to like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, depending on what is happening at tribal council. So this idea that you could sit next to a weak player and all of a sudden that weak player is like, shabam, here's my hand, changes a lot. So there's like two sides of me to like understanding where Kehlani is at, like with her votes. Is she holding back this information to use it as a huge weapon at the end, or is she just there where people really didn't give an ass about getting to know her? I really hope it's that weapon one, that she's got, you know, these cards up her sleeve. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of that plays out. I just want to get to some of these comments already that have come in. Kehlani is only a GOAT because we think she's a GOAT. The dynamic between the players may be totally different. That's exactly right. And that's why I'm saying Kehlani doesn't know that she's the GOAT, honestly. And we're seeing her being edited. And again, you know, I have a lot of issue with people who want to blame the edit. Okay? Those of you who are new here might have heard this tangent before. You are on a TV show that is not live. It's not what Big Brother used to be, where we just watch you do stuff for 3 days and that's an episode. We have stories that need to be told, and we have a start point and an end point, and the end point is Jean being voted out. So the producers of the show have to tell that story about how people came up against me and came up with a strategy. I thought I was safe and I thought I was with these people, and then they voted me out. That's essentially the story that gets told each week as we go along. So you're signing up for a story. You are a character. That character just happens to be who I am deep down. But some people go on to play a character. Maybe they aren't the villain, but that's the thing that they want to do. They want to cut throats. They want to be mean. They want to flip on people, they want to be a villain, then that's the character that you've been cast as. So to come out now and be like, oh, it's the edit. Guys, you're part of a TV show that has to be told a certain way. And you have to be okay with what they choose to tell. This is not, you don't have any right to your own edit. When you sign that document that says, cool, I'm going to be on Survivor, I'm going to be famous, yeah, let's go. You sign away that opportunity of being in any kind of control of what gets told. It is what I like to call it is a unscripted TV show with real people. It's not I don't actually think of it as a reality show because it is edited together. So at the moment, Kilani has been edited as if she doesn't know what's going on. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not true, but that's the story that we have. So at the end, if she sits at the end and she pleads her case and she wabams us with a big story about, being there with absolutely no family and everybody died 2 months ago, then everybody on the jury will be like, holy shit, let's give her the money. Let's let her win. Imagine this for 1 second. Imagine Kilani sits at the end with Dino. Everybody on that jury is hating on Dino. Dante, if he had a shotgun, would have shot him by now. He is gunning for him. And do you think in Ponderosa, where they literally have their own mini version of a reality show going, where he's not campaigning against against Dino. Listen, also, I have to apologize. My brain and my mouth get Dante and Dino mixed up and Felix and Philip mixed up. It's the sounds. Marion and Meryl too. I apologize. But I'm pretty sure that you can weave where I'm going with things. So imagine Kilani sitting next to Dino at the end of Survivor. Who wins? Kilani comes with, guys, this has been very difficult. We've all been through the depths of hell, but also I've got this to tell you about. And Dino's out there like, yeah, I started playing like 6 to 7 days from the end. That's a very interesting conversation to have, right? Hilgard says, let's assume Kilani plays those cards. How do you think the jury will receive it? My point exactly. I think this jury is going to hold everything against the people playing. So I'm finding it so fascinating, all these different scenarios that are playing out, right? Because let's say, for example, that Marion lands up still on the jury. Let's say Philip or Dino land up on the jury. And let's say Kilani and Phil are the final two. Maybe Philip wins that one a bit easier. But let's say, for example, Dino is sitting there with Kilani. And everybody on that jury just can't stand him for whatever reason. And blame him for a lot of the moves, whether he was the person orchestrating those moves or whether he wasn't. What they perceive is the reality. And unless he goes at the end and he says, guys, I didn't do that, that was somebody else, then they're not going to give it to him anyway because he didn't own the move. So what does he do at the end? How does Dino weave a story that gets all of these people who blame him for their demise, which is the point of the game, but actually he really didn't do a lot of those moves himself? So Kilani sits there at the end with somebody who they already want any excuse not to vote for him, and then she unpacks that big bomb. That for me is going to be very interesting to see, because I don't know if I said it last week in the episode, but one of the thoughts that came to me, and Dino verbalized it in the tribal council on Monday, he says that all of a sudden the opportunities have halved if we're talking about taking goat to the end. And that's what I spoke about in my live. I said, all of a sudden, Kilani's become a very powerful player in the game. Powerful to get to the end, powerful to win, I don't know. It depends on the people on the jury. But your chances, if everybody's going to take a goat to the end, there's the goat's position already signed in ink. Now, the rest of you all are playing for another one spot, not two. You're playing for one because everybody's decided that they're going to sit with Kilani at the end. So Cassidy says, I can't underestimate Kilani. She has no blood on her hands from perception, and that could be worth gold. If people are bitter, not sure we'll have a bitter jury, but you never know. 100%. If I look at the people who are on that jury, bitterness could be their all matching tattoo next year. So I don't know, but it's difficult for me because I don't know that I would sit on the jury and not be bitter. Okay, I've never done that. I've had the privilege to play this game and not sit on the jury. So I can't comment about how difficult it is to once a week go, or once every, I don't know, 8 to maybe 5 or 6 days, 4 or 5 days, going to tribal council, and you're only getting a bit of the game now. So you're on the outskirts. And how do you still play in the game when you're out? Well, you have a vote. And how you play that vote, or what absolute shenanigans you spill at the end to make your point heard. I don't know about all of that stuff. I don't know if I would still have this gamemanship that I pray that people, when they get voted out, are like, hey, well done, you voted me out before I voted you out. I don't know whether I would have that kind of response. I thought a lot about it, when I was younger and I used to play sports. I enjoyed the game, and afterwards we would shake hands. So I would hope that that's what kind of a jury member I would be. I look at somebody like Vander on my season, going up there and saying, "Essie, you did it, you got me out." And then I continued to screw my whole game up by voting him completely out. But this idea that this jury could be playing, they could be voting at the end for the GOAT. It's maybe, as a casual viewer, maybe as a super fan, maybe that's heartbreaking to see somebody who you perceived as not playing the game winning, but that is a strategical play at the end. Let people take you and then completely blow it up in their face. Like, cool, you didn't take the opportunity to get to know me. Because I don't know how anybody goes, 32 days. 32 days at the last episode. 32 days without finding out a little bit about that story. How does that happen? So if Kilani wins, I'll flip and shake her hand. I will. One of the things that I've been thinking about this week is that, and I mentioned it last week, is that production is the best player of this game. There's so many little things this week that reminded me of it. And one of the things was Tajan. Oh, Tajan is the gift that keeps on giving, man. Firstly, when he arrives at the Loved Ones Challenge, and he brings a staff of power. Firstly, I swear in every season, there is somebody who has a staff of power. I'll give you one guess on my season who it was. 1, 2, 3, all together now, Tom. It is so funny because Tajan was he seemed, I don't know if it was like he was aware of it, and how if he was like playing a character, but people were just laughing at him, man. And when he arrived with the whole tree, which had bracelets on it as well. I just had such a laugh because Tom had a staff of power as well, which he would like scrape names into and then burn the names, and it was just absolutely, he would go for his walk down the beach with his stocky every evening or every morning, and it just reminded me so much about Tom's. And as LaRue says, Tajan was really channeling some Tom coach energy with that staff of power. But LaRue, my question is that was it intentional for him to channel a character, or was Tajan being that's who he is? Like, that wasn't a thing that he decided to do. Like, a lot of people nowadays, I see them, with the stick in their mouth, like channeling Harry or whoever Harry was channeling before. And I can't imagine Tajan being this guy who's going to try and emulate another character. What I'm reading is that that's just Tajan. He is the gift that keeps on giving. So I have thoroughly... Exactly, he was being himself. So I have been thoroughly enjoying the man. One of my favorite moments as well is when he goes up. So, I mean, okay, I was talking about production being the best player in Survivor. And the reason I say that is because they've made the idols rocks. It's not a dagger. It's not a big token. It's not some elaborate woven dream catcher. It's a rock with the sign of the tribe on it. Now, production can go, okay, cool, we can have a few idols in the game that look like proper idols that have been welded like the one that Philip eventually finds. And we can also have some that look like nature. So if you have a pouch and a piece of paper and you put a rock in it, it could essentially look like an idol, which is what Tajan decides to do. And it's such wonderful like storytelling and like surprise and delight that gets like unveiled at the tribal council. And one of the things I can't quite decide what I think is the truth, and I don't know what the truth is, right? So we get bits of the story, so I don't know what the truth is. But that episode where Philip decides to flip his vote, or flip Shane and Kilani's vote onto Tajan. So I guess everybody had decided that they would split the votes between Felix and Tajan in case somebody plays an idol. Now keep in mind that tribal council is longer than what we see. And in that moment, I think Philip might have gotten this idea, hold on a second. Firstly, I mean, he says to the others, it's fake, or they say to him it's a fake, and he like agrees with them. So this idea that he was somehow convinced that this was an idol, I don't think that was the truth. What I do think perhaps was happening there was, while he's sitting there, he's thinking, Felix, Tajan, Felix, Tajan, Felix, Tajan. If I flip mine, I'll probably get Kilani to flip hers. Maybe I can get a Shane to flip. And I can maybe, while all of this confusion is happening, I can maybe influence a vote. I think that Philip, in that moment, decided that Tajan was a bigger risk to him winning immunities than Felix. Because Tajan kept coming very close second in a lot of things to Philip. So I think maybe in the back of his mind, he was also concerned about flipping on his No BS alliance, but how could he then get rid of Tajan without pissing too many people off? Maybe low-key, whispering right next to somebody, but also taking out a threat, like Tajan, who was coming second in a lot of the challenges. I don't know, that was just something for me that kind of was permeating with me, like this idea that Philip just quickly flipped stuff and it was stuck for no reason. There had to be an underlying thought there about why he decided to change his vote. And I love that Tajan had this fake idol and the way he played it. And my favorite moment was when he walks up to to Nico, and he says, I've got this idol which I'm going to play, and then he flips around and he does like a ninja thing, but you can't see his face because it's still in his hood, so he's like fighting his jacket and flipping around, and he's playing the idol, but he's not playing the idol, and poor old Nico's just standing there going, okay, here are the votes. I just absolutely love Tajan. Was one of my favorite people to watch over the weeks that he was there. And again, I think sometimes by having a player who doesn't quite play at the same level as other people, and as one of the points came up, where Felix was talking about, you know, him being solid, and he's not going to flip because Tajan's flipped and he will do it again. And Tajan's like, what are you basing that on? And Felix is like, facts, the truth. What have I said before about facts and truths? It's subjective. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was upset when he left because he was my winner pick. I thought he would go all the way and then be able to somehow convince this jury of people who hate so many people there that, no, I'm the guy with my staff of power. It would have been so classic to have him anywhere near the end. And as the pool of player gets smaller, right, then his opportunity of winning individual immunities somehow just creeps up as well. And I think for Philip and for Dino to maybe continue winning, they had to get rid of him. But whether they could agree on that as the No BS Alliance, I just think there was so much paranoia between the three people in that No BS Alliance. And somebody like Shane is sitting there just like, oh, these people are frustrating me. Like, why can we not just agree on things and take it as it comes and just go and vote? And he's landing up being people flipping last minute and really getting just upset with people. Yeah. One of the other things that has come up, and Dino put something on his page about gaming production. And so for people who are watching here, who are just casual viewers, they might not know what gaming production means. And I remember on my season, one of the producers came to me and they said, Jean, are you gaming production? I was like, what the hell's gaming production? I don't even know what you're talking about. And he said, what I was doing was when something was going down on the beach, I would often look at the camera people to almost judge their judgment about what was happening on the beach. I didn't know that I was doing it. I certainly wasn't conscious of gaming production. And now one of the things that Dino was talking about, and he said, a warning to all potential players, and I think a lot of the people who come here are people who still hope to play this game one day. Gaming production, nobody wins, because again, the best player of this show is production, and they have so much footage, and they have so much angles, and they're recording when you don't know that they're recording audio anyway, so they know everybody's story. And what Dino was saying was that he was convinced, he stopped looking for an idol because he saw one of the camera people zoom in on something on the ground, and that's where Philip had been looking or whatever. I don't know the full story. But what I want to also tell you is that production, the people behind the cameras, also film things like snakes and the damn spiders and the monkeys and the river and the time lapse of the sun setting and all these different things that you see on Survivor. That's somebody with a camera zooming in on a leaf. So this idea that you somehow know more than the people holding the cameras, trust me, you don't. They've been doing this for a very long time. Somebody didn't know either that a lot of our people go and work on other shows. So they're not just these people who are filming Survivor and then they put their cameras down and only film again later. You know, some of our sound people and our cameras run around people on the American one or the Australian game, you know. So these people know what they're doing and they know how to not give anything away. It's part of their code of conduct, their truth, their basis of existence is to not get involved in the show. And that's why we are only really allowed to, that's why the only people we talk to are producers. We don't talk to the camera people. We don't talk to the sound people. We don't talk to the people holding the cables for the camera people. Those are production people. They're not allowed to talk to us. The only people who form a type of relationship with us are the producers. And when I say type of relationship, it's literally the same for everybody. We wake up in the morning, we chat to the camera people, we chat to the camera, but right next to the camera is the producer who we're talking to. And they ask us, how did you sleep, Sean? No, it just was rough, eh? You hungry? Yeah, what are you listening for? I could do with a burger, hey? And then you have this relationship, and all of a sudden you feel super comfortable with them, and that sometimes that's the only person that you start trusting, is this person who's asking you actually, and they make you believe that they care about you. And so you start to share a bit more about your game and maybe how you're feeling. And sometimes the people who are asking you the questions are the ones that are able to get your emotional response, because for a second you feel like you don't have to play the game anymore. So for me, I remember getting super emotional a lot of times when I was sitting opposite a producer who was asking me, like, how are you feeling today, Jean? You missing home? How, what are the things that you miss? And you have like a real emotional response with them. And those are those moments that you capture on camera, and they become those really great confessionals. Or me, I want to joke about everybody, and I'll joke with the producer and joke about myself and make cut of myself. And that's the kind of stuff that makes it into the show, because it's almost this real response to stuff. For a moment, I'm not gaming, I'm Jean in a game. Although, let's be honest, I was Jean in the game too. So that was all that. So this idea of gaming production, it's not worth it. You don't know more than the people behind those cameras. You don't know more than the producers who walk around with books like this. They've written down what has happened. They've got not only the things that are happening in front of them, but they also have sound from the other cameras. They are putting the 8 storylines. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to come across like a man-hater. I didn't know that it was going to land up in the show, but I'm glad it did. But they know the full story when you only know parts of it. So, you know what? Just if you ever get the opportunity to play the cards in front of you. Don't try and play the things that you think you know about the game, because you don't. You don't know more than what's going to happen now. And that's one of the things that was my strength, is that I wasn't steadfast in what might happen tomorrow. So, yeah. Oh, LaRue's correcting me, they're now digital. Oh, so they don't have a pen and paper. Come on, you're telling me that all of the producers are digital. Some of those people are like journalists, man. You can't get them to get rid of a pen and paper. Anyway, listen, this paranoia where they are at now. So day 32, the save the date comes up, right? So the save the date was Dino. He won it at a challenge, or he got it at, it was at the food reward after merge where they did the catties, right? Which I would have loved, because I think I would have been really good at that. But anyway, I thought I was going to be good at everything, and I really wasn't. So anyway, I would have taken, what would I take? I think I might have taken the biltong, actually, because it would have been high, lots of protein. But I also might have eaten a burger or something. Anyway, he gets a save the date. So 32, he had to make day 32. If he got voted out before that, he could bequeath, I love that word, his save the date to somebody, which he had said he would bequeath it to Marion. And I guess as he gets voted out, he would maybe write down the name of who that's going to go to, and then they give it to them, or let her discover it, or I don't know how that would have played out if he did bequeath it. But he didn't. He made it to day 32. I'm fascinated to know that Philip let him get to day 32. I would have voted him out before day 32. I'd have been like, I'm not letting him save the date. Also, nobody knew that he won that flippin' holiday. Imagine watching that on TV for the first time. Hey, my God! An 80,000 Rand prize. And he told them he got chocolates, strawberries and chocolates. Oh man, he's acting. I will say I have been very underwhelmed by Mr. Dino, our puzzle master, until this week. I said last week that he was the most overrated player. And that basically wasn't me. I've said this to him, by the way. Listen, I'm like, no offense, but what we see on camera, you're pretty much the most overrated player compared, because let's measure it right. Let's measure somebody like Dante and his all-out assault on Dino. And Dino's like, I haven't been a part of anything until now. And I feel like now, all of a sudden, he's playing. There was a point where he said something in one of his confessionals. He's like, the No BS Alliance, I'm serving them all of the BS. So there was a moment where they were like, oh, you know, if top 6, if there's a tie, then they make fire or something. He's like, no, they don't. They go to rocks. And that's just levels at which Dino knows this game and is like stirring with people, being like, yes, just remember who knows what's happening here more than everybody else. And so he was having to manage lots and lots of different relationships for the first time. We're actually seeing him come out of his shell and really, I mean, I was surprised that Dino was the one searching bags with Marion. We all know, if you watch Marion's season, Marion and Shane were the bag searchers and the thieves. One of the things a lot of people are talking about, is it right this week? Somebody was asking me, what do you think about the bags being searched? And I said, the bags being searched is one thing, and that's within the rules of the game. And I remember that when we got to the beach, we all searched Martinez's bag. Not me, because I am a head girl. I will tell you that for free. I don't like to be involved with drama. I'm like, if we do the wrong thing, my mom's going to yell at me. I don't like to break the rules. And so the rules in Survivor are that you can go through somebody's bag, but you cannot steal stuff from somebody's bag. And that happened after Shane and Marion's season, where they went through somebody's bag and found an idol and then claimed it as their own. So going through somebody's bag, I don't know. It's within the rules, but it feels hella wrong when you're doing it. But they got all this information for the game. I don't know, but it makes me uncomfortable, but that's just me. But Dino was the one who was doing it, and that kind of surprised me. Was he being egged on by Marion? 100%, because she is experienced in this regard. So, I really enjoyed that moment, them going through the bag, finding the parchments, and eventually finding the clue to the actual idol hidden at Tribal Council. So, I love that sequence as well. Let's clap some of these comments here. Dino's acting this week was on point. Yeah, he really did. LaRue saying he got that day 20, so 12 days later. It's impressive. 100%. I would have voted him out, just knowing that he went. Always take a covered item. Don't know, maybe it's me. Let me tell you something, Hilgard. Just for free. The decisions that you think you will make are not the decisions that you make in the game. Why? Because you are so hungry. You are so hungry. You know the right decision for Marion when she was presented with rice and an idol was what? Not the rice. The idol. This is an individual game for 2 million Rand. Whether you eat rice or not, or whether your tribe eats rice or not, is not your concern. You take always what's best for you. However, in that moment, what your brain and your paranoia and your hunger and your lack of sleep and your lack of loved ones and your lack of sanity is a completely different story. So going with this idea that you think you'll take whatever's covered, like Steffi, and then she got a bowl of rice. I often think that going with the known is good as opposed to the unknown, which is bad. Every day you are presented with the unknown. So I almost think at any opportunity that you are given an option between something known and something unknown, at least you won't be disappointed or wrong. I'm just literally thinking this up at the moment. But you're so tempted by those decision-making moments. And I know that Roux in this season has wanted, well, every season that he goes along, and we've spoken about this, is this opportunity to present people with choice. That's what Outpost is. Outpost is an opportunity to mix things up. And there's so many different layers to it. There's this opportunity to give the person a prize, but also an opportunity for them to choose, make a big decision. And then they also have to come up with an elaborate lie, because having an idol or having an advantage puts a target on your back. So how good do you sell whatever happened at the Outpost? Or do you go back with a bag of rice and say, I had to choose and I chose this? I think no matter what happens, people are going to think that you're lying anyway. So I don't know what the right thing to do is, again, because the best play is production. So I like to go with what's in front of me, because there's so many other things that are unknown. But the right decision is probably something that is covered. But it's very difficult to make that when there's like a bowl of pasta and you can smell it. Or like a beer or a bowl of biltong. That decision to always go for something covered, it's not an easy one. Richard says, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the new extra vote adaptation. Yeah, I love that actually. So generally when you get an extra vote, it doesn't count in a re-vote. And so Dino being able to force that vote tie, knowing that when they go, that his re-vote will carry through to the tie vote again. It's a great little adaptation as well. Because sometimes the re-vote doesn't actually even matter in times when people want to play it, or the extra vote, not the re-vote. The extra vote doesn't count. Oftentimes, if you've noticed this, people will get stuff and not be able to play it properly. Oftentimes, an idol is more of a target than it is an advantage. Although, to be honest with you, the people playing here have done really well with that regard. So maybe it's the fact that when you play for the first time, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know how being there impacts your decisions, and like you're almost being starstruck at being there impacts a lot of your decisions. So the people going back now have more experience making big decisions, making big choices, making big plays. Some maybe went out with idols in their pocket. Some didn't use advantages properly. Some went and didn't sell the lie, and so they came back with targets on their backs. So hopefully they learned the lesson and have taken that into the game now. So the fact that that extra vote with the tie advantage was played well, that's a bonus. I love it. I mean, I'm never going to be upset by an advantage that sort of pushes the game a bit further. And it's unpredictable, right? Because we learn from so many other seasons before this that let's maybe mix things up a little bit. Let's not be predictable, because again, production wants the players to also be at their wits' end and not predict what's going to happen next. I mean, remember, every day that they're there and they're doing something, so whether they're going to challenge or whatever, they get tree mail. And for those of us who have watched this game for years, we hear the tree mail and we're like, oh, I think I know what that is. And you literally tell your tribe. Meanwhile, it's like, just keep it to yourself, dummy. And that's what they also see Philip kind of stirring the pot with Dino when they said, Dino, what do you think this could be? And he's like, I'm not saying anything. And in his confessional, he says, for the first time, I didn't share what I thought the challenge is going to be. Because you spend like 10 minutes, you're like, what could this possibly be? And then you get there, and half the time you're very wrong because because production's like, we know that you know that the things that we know and that we don't want you to know, and now we don't know anything. So, okay, Hillgott says, let's assume you bury the idol you find and someone else digs it up, not knowing you buried it. Then what? I don't know. That's a good question. I wouldn't bury it because I 100% will lose it. LaRue said Phil also should have taken his bag. Honestly, I can't believe the bride didn't take his bag. I was also wondering to myself if that was accidental, because he seems so on top of small decisions and small things. So I don't know, was that accidental? Because if you're leaving for a only reward, well, you wouldn't know it's an only reward. I guess maybe they would, because I don't know, but I don't know. There's so many things that can happen at a challenge that perhaps you don't know that's going to come, and I would always want to be ready. So the fact that you don't take your bag is very weird. That's a very, very weird decision to make, especially when you see other people walking away with their bags. I'd have been like, no. And like the one that they got, that reward of going away for the day to a spa, like, I want my clothes, because I want to be able to stand in the shower in my clothes and also maybe wash my clothes. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me why he would not take his bag, knowing also that Marion and Shane are back at the camp. They are bag searchers. I don't know if they work for airport control or what, but that's what they do. So to not take your bag, I was wondering if that was an accident, because it seems so bizarre. But anyway, lol, I'm keen to steal idols for drama, but I guess if that was allowed, no one would get any sleep. True. Choices are so important in the game. It makes for great TV moments. One of the things I was explaining to somebody was this idea that, you know, of the old sort of survivor idea where you got into a big numbers majority after merge, and then you sailed all of that to the end. And that's rich coming from me, because it's kind of what we did. But that wasn't because it was a good gameplay. It's because nobody came up with anything to challenge us. Nobody was coming at us with alternative ideas. Had people want to mix it up, I'd be like, cool, let's take a shot, let's try, let's do. But people were just happy with the numbers majority. It was very strange. Not for the people in the numbers majority, but for the people who weren't. I was very surprised that we managed to get so many votes off without any drama, really. But that can be very boring to watch, although that's really good strategy in the game. The people at home want that drama. So I know that the creators of this show want to present people with moral dilemmas. That's why things like Immunity Island, that's why things like the Outpost were invented, was to give people an opportunity to maybe win something, to make a decision. To the other part of it that you also don't think about it is removing them from the game for a bit. Because if they take Jean away from her core alliance, that gives that core alliance an opportunity to maybe have a conversation with somebody, you know, who might want to work with them and maybe take that shot at me while I'm not there. So to come up with a plan that perhaps they can put in motion while I'm being removed from the game. And that I'm looking at it like, yes, I'm going to Outpost. Meanwhile, sometimes it's really bad. And like, for example, when they had that challenge, the spa challenge, and it was Felix and Philip, and they walk off, and the other four go back to the beat, and they're like, this is the best, because now we get to discuss how we're going to get rid of Felix. So there's always two sides to every outcome of a reward or somebody being sent somewhere. Yes, it's good for you because you could potentially get an advantage in the game. However, the downside is that you are exiting the game for maybe an hour, maybe two, maybe even longer. And that also needs to be weighed up. So, like when they were sending people to Outpost or to Immunity Island, they often do like, oh, we'll send somebody and make the tribe weaker. But sometimes it was like, oh, we'll send them to save them. However, sometimes that looks even worse because now you're trying to save them, but you're removing them from the game for a little bit. And so many different things can happen while they're being removed. So it's always, that's why these things are always brought into the game, right? Santuni, you are late. Richard says, I'm so happy with Felix's game and it means so much for representation. Mad props for Dad Bod Full being a challenge beast like you in the last few challenges of season 6. You know, it's so interesting, this idea of challenge beast, right? If you had to guess how many challenges I was a part of winning, that number is really high, right? So challenge beast labels. I get labeled as lazy, as useless, as riding to the end by people who don't really know the game, so I don't really care, as a hippo. But I actually was part of 12 wins, including 2 individual immunities. At the moment, I think Full, at the last check, I think he got 3 individual immunities at the end of this week. He's won challenges, he's won individual challenges and rewards. So the fact that not a lot of people are looking to like get him out immediately is concerning. So yeah, Dad Bod for the win. Hilgott says, I would have taken my bag for the simple reason that I could have found something at the reward and then you need to pack it away somewhere. 100%. I don't understand it. How cuck is it that Marion is getting so much flack for searching bags? Tyson, Anela, Dino, and Chappies. Yeah, I mean, I think this episode wasn't Marion at all. Did she perhaps stir the pot and say, should we search the bags? I don't know. We weren't there. But I think she's known for searching bags. I was around when a bag was searched, and I don't know. I don't like to be a part of breaking the rules. So irritating. Finale announcement. What does that mean? What does it mean? The reading of the votes happened on the island. We also did the reunion with all the cast members on the island. So it's all pre-recorded, which means no finale filming this year. The reason was COVID. So it's already happened. There you have it. Everybody, it's already been done. So that is going to be one flaming hot finale. That is going to be one flaming hot finale. Yeah, that's... I mean, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I think that that it's going to be the same, right? Because the only difference is that the person who has won or hasn't won doesn't have to wait so long to know. I hated it, guys. It was the longest. And somewhere along the line, perhaps somebody could have leaked something to me and I would have been less surprised at the end. But right until they read those votes, I honestly thought I had won. And so it like oscillated between I hadn't won or I had wine, and I had wine. I probably had too much wine. But this idea that I had already won the show, and then I thought, no, I didn't. And then so actually on the day, and we rehearse the finale, but they rehearse it like me winning, yay, and me also not winning. And I didn't know until the end, until they literally read out those last votes, that I hadn't won. And it was heartbreaking in that moment, and I still had to smile. My dad almost bound onto stage to beat somebody. It's like, Bernard, calm down, please. But the fact that you don't have to wait months and months and months to know whether you've actually won the game is a blessing for the person. So I have no problem with that. There will be a viewing. If you guys want to come to the viewing, we are having a party again at the Radisson Red, but please get in contact with Sintoni if you want to be there. There's obviously only going to be limited space. There is a cost involved because we are throwing the party ourselves. So if you do want to be there, you have to get in contact with Sintoni because she's the keeper of the lists. LaRue said, but you have to keep the secret for months and months and months. Yeah, that's the secret of me being, I mean, whether you're keeping a secret that you are in the final two or whether you're keeping the secret that you've won or haven't won, it's pretty much the same thing. But for the person who is in final two, not having that secret to hold on to and not having that anxiety, game changer. Anyway, guys, next week is the last one. We slam 4 episodes next week. By Thursday we will know whether one of these people have won. Philip, Dino, Shane, Marion, Kilani. Who the hell is going to win this season? I thought it was going to be Tejan because that would have been the best. But I would love it to be Philip. That would be such a great win. But seriously, in the back of my brain, something is telling me it's Kilani. Just because of this big cards that she's holding in her hand. I think Dino, you see, brain, Dante. I think Dino has a real tough challenge to get the people on the jury to give him money. I think Shane loses against Marion. I think Kilani loses against Philip. I think Dino loses against Kilani, unfortunately. And I think Marion loses against Philip. Kilani and Marion, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. But thank you all for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you want to come to the viewing on Thursday, give your randellas to Santoni and she will let you know all of the details. Guys, have a great week. I'm looking forward to Monday to Thursday next week. It's going to be flames every which way. So, LaRue, thanks for being here. Thanks for announcing that. And we will see you on Sunday. We definitely will have a final recap. We will have a look at some of our favorite characters and the winner. We'll chat about it. We'll chat about the big moves this week that are no doubt coming our way. Thanks, everybody. Have a lekker week. We'll see you on Sunday at 7 on Instagram. Cheers!